Yo, how's it going? Hello, we need to mute Discord. Hello, Bianca. Hello, Trapped in the Matrix. I'm sorry, you're second. But Bianca has a 4 on you because she is the channel moderator, so. And yes, I sent her the notification as well. Okay. Um, so we are gathered here today to respond to something that Conan Barbarian said in our talk in a previous conversation about a month ago. We're gonna wait for some people to come in, but for now, what can I say? Yeah, I'm just trying to keep my poor channel alive while I'm going through whatever I'm going through, because YouTube doesn't like it when you post nothing for months on end. It kills you afterwards. It never shows notifications to anything afterwards. Yeah. Hello, Justin. Yes, vegan fam. We're gonna wait for a few more people to come in to have this conversation. Have a bunch of stuff ready here on my, in a weird way, on my live stream. And I'm not connecting my camera today to my poor cow because I don't feel like it. So she's gonna blink once in a while and her face, like her mouth is gonna move, but no more than that. Justin, you have 1K subs? What is your content about? Yo, CDA, what's up? What's going on? Yo, we're gonna wait a little bit longer for a few people to come in, but not much. Michael! You made it! Beans! Beans, beans, beans. Thank you for joining us, Michael. CDA, not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't know yet. For now, I have 2 modes, and those are Bianca #GoVegan and The Real Thing. And as soon as I get like more than 20 people watching, I might add some mods. Bianca, and don't worry when the cow starts seemingly go to sleep. It's only because VPM is looking down. I'm not doing that today. The camera is not connected to the cow, so it only moves its mouth because I'm talking, and it blinks automatically once in a while, just to not look like a psychopath, I guess. But I didn't connect the camera, so they're not gonna move the ears, or like the blinking is gonna be just random shit, and the head is not gonna move. This is gonna be a lazy setup. I'm sorry. I just didn't feel like adding all the situation. Am I turning into vegan gaze because I'm not willing to mod you? I bet many people are not willing to mod you, CTA. I don't see the purpose of modding you right now. We don't have many trolls at all. We don't have many watchers at all, so, you know. Justin, I have to watch your channel. But tell me what it's about. Maybe you answered already, but I haven't noticed. No, I don't see it. Yes, stoic cow today. They're not gonna move much. And his pronouns are changing every second, so. And sometimes their pronouns are it, because the English language demands that animals are things. We're gonna see a little bit of that in the Confessions of a Slaughterhouse Worker, the objectification of animals. But also, it literally is an it. It's a puppet, so I feel okay with it. Speaking of cows, cows are a silent jury in the trial of mankind. They're not silent, we just can't hear them. Or are not willing to listen, I guess. I don't know. But I understand your sentiment. I'm just a stickler for how things are arranged in a sentence. It's kind of weird. You're doing piano covers, Justin. I'm always on the lookout for musical creators because that's the one thing that I'm terrible at. I have some musical inclinations, and once in a while I'll make like a musical thing. But I'm not by any stretch of an imagination am good at it. So we gotta collab, Justin. I'm gonna remember your name. I'm gonna look you up later. If you can put, if you don't have it already, put your email in your about and expect my email. What is TITM, CDA? And I'm sorry, yeah, the crying emojis are breaking my heart, but you're not gonna be a mod at this point. It might be later, but not at this point. Yes, Michael. I'm guessing that most of the people already read it. But I have a few things here that are going on. We're gonna check out a few things. This is just the thing where I'm probably starting. I haven't made a plan too much close. Like, I haven't formulated a plan just yet. I just want to respond to something that Connann said on our stream. Yeah, let's get into it, I guess. So this is a snippet of what Connann said about slaughterhouse workers on our stream, and I have to mute myself in order to play this. So hold on.
I know people who don't work in slaughterhouse. They kill people, not kill people, but chickens, and mostly chickens, because that's the most things that people keep in their backyards, and they have no problem doing it, or any negative association do it after a first or second time, and that is mostly consistent with what I found in research of slaughterhouse workers. After that first initial first or second day of work, they don't have problems with killing animals, which is not the case.
What do you mean? We have so many. We have such a large amount of psychological data on them having like PTSD or PITS or whatever.
Yeah, PTSD comes from the working condition. I studied, I read, all, well, not all, of course. I read many studies, most cited studies. In most cases, it is the fact that working conditions in slaughterhouses are very poor.
What do you mean by that?
They are very loud. They are extremely dangerous. They have extremely high rates of accidents on the job. They are usually very cold.
I mean, all of this is true, but yet when we see interviews of people who used to work in slaughterhouses, they say, okay, yes, I was never like hurt myself or whatever, but when I close my eyes, all I see is like the terrible things that I do to the animals. They talk about the PTSD doesn't come from being cold or loud. It comes from killing the animals themselves. They point it out as
I only found two studies that point to that. One was a study, a single study on a single slaughterhouse in South Africa. In the studies, they used, I think, 30-something. They used the interview with the employer, with employees, 30-something, and from those, 11 worked on the ground, so they were not. The rest was managers and secretaries and so on. From those 11, only one even mentioned the animals. And that was only after the person asking the question specifically asked, what is your view of the animals? And only then he said that he had nightmares after the first day, and the rest after that he was fine.
So you think he's one of them people who didn't develop or didn't mature properly?
No, in that case, it is possible he never worked in a slaughterhouse before. I never worked in a slaughterhouse. I'm just reading the studies.
All right. So that was that. That's the quote. Some of the claims, by the way, are correct. Most of them, I did like a cursory search in a few databases, scientific databases, including Google Scholar. And I guess it depends on what you're looking for, because I did find a few studies that talk about specifically the connection between mental health of slaughterhouse workers and the killing of animals, which, as we spoke with Justin just now, intuitively makes sense, but our intuitions aren't always reliable, so we have to go through the studies a little bit. I can put this Google search in the chat. Hold on. There you go. I'm not gonna go through the studies. I only read some of them, lightly. I didn't go into it too much because I don't know if you have noticed, I am reluctant to do anything productive lately. But I read some of them, at least like the abstract and the methods and such, and I came to a few conclusions from that. So some of them are definitely only talking about the conditions of work in slaughterhouses, like the cold, the prevalence to injury. They have very high prevalence to injury. But some of them do speak of the psychological situation. Yes, PITS, Bianca, that's correct. Perpetrator-Induced Traumatic Syndrome. Specifically, this paper talks about PITS. I think the author of this paper also invented the claim, like the name of it. Now, this article, I read it a little bit more, and it kind of speaks like it's written by a vegan, and it's a bit emotionally invested. They also make the declaration here somewhere that the data analysis was, there we go, in the ethics, that acts like, or in, I don't remember, it's somewhere here that they weren't like, there we go, we do not claim objectivity in the reporting of the results. It reads that way. The link to this paper is in the description of this live. And there are a few papers, like for instance, this paper that was collected information on about 10,000 Danish workers. I think all of them are slaughterhouse workers or something. But let's not forget that slaughterhouse work doesn't mean that it's the work on the kill floor. And I think that's the hardest part. And, you know, some of them, you know, this place is called meatpacking situations. So some of them just pack the end result. And in a society, we are kind of numb to seeing just meat and not the process of it. So it doesn't really matter. So I wrote out a few things that came up in the literature by CDA, in the literature that didn't talk about animals at all. So the question wasn't asked. Never is a strong word. But in most cases, the question wasn't even asked how do they feel about killing animals all day. Slaughterhouse workers being migrant workers and are afraid for their jobs. That was very clear in several studies that dealt with, like, especially the American-based studies, that the workers were either from Mexico or other places. In the UK, the workers are from Eastern Europe, like the poorer countries, and they were definitely, it could be, I'm guessing, yes, it wasn't written in the literature, but I'm guessing that those people were kind of afraid of saying anything that could potentially make them lose their job. Something you should know about me: I am a child of migrants, so I've seen my very educated parents working in terrible jobs and afraid to lose them. So they didn't complain. Another thing that comes up in these studies, in my opinion, I have to say that nobody writes that into the literature, is that some of the studies are done on non-kill floor workers. I said that already. Societal norms don't allow men to talk about their emotions. Most of the people who work on the kill floor are men. So I think that's one of the problems. I'm totally injecting it into the conversation, by the way, so take it with a grain of salt. And something that I also think that comes up is that the current slaughterhouse workers, they need to tune it out to make it okay that they're killing animals day in, day out. So, you know, I don't know if you ever experienced cognitive dissonance. Oh, of course you did. But you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to see it. You kind of hide it from your psyche, that you're doing something that might be immoral. And the former slaughterhouse workers, they don't have to tune it out anymore, so they can be more expressive with how they felt and their emotions altogether. That's one of the reasons why I am going to go through what is an anecdotal situation and not one of those studies that actually does talk about the psychological effects of killing animals. One of the predominant ones, though, I'm going to mention it in this, is from Global Health Review by Yale, whatever, A Call to Action, Psychological Harm in Slaughterhouse Workers. And most of it is mentioning specifically the working conditions, like the cold and prevalence to injury, high prevalence to injury. But some of it is kind of disturbing. They are talking about prevalence to violence in slaughterhouse workers, There's a quote here: "I've had ideas of hanging my foreman upside down on the line and sticking him. I remember going into the office and telling the personnel man that, man, I have no problem pulling the trigger on a person. If you get in my face, I'll blow you away." This situation also, they're talking about animal abuse here. Social theorists would consider the behavior to be a progression from animal abuse and human violence. So this is talking about something that is known, that when in childhood you abuse animals, you have more prevalence to violence in adulthood. And they connect it to slaughterhouse workers as well. But I wanted to appeal to emotion, as vegans do, because we have no facts behind us except for all of this. So I wanted to read this article that some of you probably read already, but I'm feeling like losing my voice today, so let's do it. Okay. About 1 million animals are killed for meat in the UK every month, but very little is heard about the people doing the killing. Here, one former abattoir worker describes her job and the effect it had on her mental health. Now, this person, as we'll see later, wasn't on the kill floor, but she describes some of the people who worked on the kill floor. So, again, this is like anecdotal, but we can't, I don't know if there is research on former slaughterhouse workers. Maybe that is something we can search after I'm done with this. But current slaughterhouse workers, they are in the job. They're probably not going to talk about how they have nightmares about animals. So some readers might find this story disturbing. So yeah, if any of you are feeling a bit gentle today, I won't get upset if you skip this one. When I was a child, I dreamed of becoming a vet. I imagined myself playing with mischievous puppies, calming down frightened kittens, and as I was a countryside kid, performing checkups on the local farm animals if they felt under the weather. I would say that that is still animal abuse adjacent, but you know, she was a child. It was a pretty idyllic life that I dreamt up for myself, but it's not quite how things worked out. Instead, I ended up working in a slaughterhouse. I was there for 6 years, and far from spending my days making poorly cows feel better, I was in charge of ensuring about 250 of them were killed every day. Whatever they eat, whether they eat meat or not, most people in the UK have never seen inside an abattoir. I think that's abattoir's fault. I think, well, actually, I think there is a don't ask, don't tell situation going on. The slaughterhouses don't want to reveal what they're doing there, and people who eat meat don't want to know. So Bianca says, that was the dream I had as a kid too, but lucky for me, someone took that dream from me while I was still a kid by telling me that I would have to kill animals as a vet. Yeah. Okay, it was pretty idyllic. We done that. Worked for 6 years. Whether they eat meat or not, most people in the UK have never been inside an abattoir, and for a good reason. They are filthy, dirty places. That's where the food comes from, filthy, dirty places. And some of the most filthy, dirty things in slaughterhouses can't be seen with the naked eye. Those are biohazards, like blood everywhere. Blood carries disease. There's animals' feces on the floor. You see and smell the guts, and the walls are covered in blood. And the smell, it hits you like a wall when you first enter, and then hangs thick in the air around you. The odor of dying animals surrounds you like a vapor. Why would anybody choose to visit, let alone work, in a place like this? For me, it was because I've already spent a couple of decades working in the food industry, in ready meal factories and the like. So when I got an offer from an abattoir to be a quality control manager, we already had a quality control manager on this channel. We talked about the German slaughterhouse in one of the videos. And in that video, a quality control person was interviewed. Working directly with the slaughterman, it felt like a fairly innocuous job move. I was in my 40s at the time, so my age. Well, maybe younger. What do people mean by 40s? It's 40 plus or under 40? I don't know. On my first day, they gave me a tour of the premises, explained how everything worked, and most importantly, asked me pointedly and repeatedly if I was okay. It was quite common for people to faint during the tour, they explained. Connann would say that those people are underdeveloped. And the physical safety of visitors and new starters was very important to them. I was okay, I think. I felt sick, but I thought I'd get used to it. Soon, though, I realized there was no point pretending that it was just another job. I'm sure not all abattoirs are the same, but mine was a brutal, dangerous place to work. I think she's wrong. I think all abattoirs are mostly the same. It is a house of slaughter, the way Justin Viola said. There were countless occasions when, despite following all of the procedures for stunning, slaughterers would get kicked by a massive spasmic cow as they hoisted up on the machine for slaughter. Similarly, cows being brought in would get scared and panic, which was pretty terrifying for all of us too. You'll know if you ever stood next to one that they are huge animals, indeed, huge, gentle puppy animals. Personally, I didn't suffer physical injuries, but the place affected my mind, and this is a quote I used somewhere already. As I spent day after day in that large windowless box, my chest felt increasingly heavy and grey fog descended over me. At night, my mind would taunt me with nightmares, replaying some of the horrors I witnessed throughout the day. One skill that you master while working in an abattoir is disassociation. You learn to become numb to death and to suffering. Instead, you think about cows as entire beings. You separate them into the saleable, edible body parts. So objectification in order to make it okay. It doesn't just make the job easier, it's necessary for survival, she says. Sorry. There are things, though, that have the power to shatter the numbness. For me, it was the heads. Content warning, the next description is absolutely terrible. At the end of the slaughter line, there was a huge skip, and it was filled with hundreds of cows' heads. Each of them had been flayed with all of the saleable flesh removed, but one thing was still attached, their eyeballs. Whenever I walked past that skip, I couldn't help but feel like I had hundreds of pairs of eyes watching me. Some of them were accusing, knowing that I participated in their deaths. Others seemed to be pleading as if there were some way I could go back in time and save them. It was disgusting, terrifying, and heartbreaking, all at the same time. It made me feel guilty. The first time I saw those heads, it took all of my strength not to vomit. Can you imagine? Jesus Christ. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is a little boring, so people are leaving, but that's okay. This could be a stand-on, like a video that people can watch afterwards. And Michael, I'm sorry, it is a shocking, terrible thing. I apologize. I know things like this bothered the other workers too, so she's talking now about the slaughterman. I'll never forget the day after I'd been in abattoir for a few months when one of the lads cut into a freshly killed cow to gut her, and out fell a fetus of a calf. She was pregnant. He immediately started shouting and throwing his arms about. I took him into a meeting room to calm him down, and all he could say was, "It's just not right. It's not right." Over and over again. These were hard men, and they rarely showed emotion, but I could see tears prickling his eyes. Even those worse than pregnant cows, though, were the young calves we sometimes had to kill. So this is kind of a special abattoir because to my understanding, most abattoirs kill dairy cows, and dairy cows go to slaughter about 25% of the time they are pregnant. In fact, fetal bovine serum is extracted from those fetuses. So the slaughterhouse must service pregnant cows. Also calves, I mean, like, I don't know, I was under the impression that calves also go to slaughter. Maybe not as young, I don't know what she means. Okay, a physically demanding role. On its website, the British Meat Process Association says the UK meat industry has some of the highest standards of hygiene and welfare in the world. I don't know how they can. I mean, you have 2 shifts a day, from 8 to 12 at night, from 8 a.m. to 12 at night, that are that slaughter animals over and over again. And when the animal is slaughtered, then the blood is washed off by a hose. Adding water to an already to a biohazard is problematic because water makes bacteria grow. So I couldn't imagine that there is not a huge bacterial load in those places. Like they only clean them at the end of the day, right? Maybe I don't understand something. Maybe we can find an ex-slaughterhouse worker that can actually talk to us at some point. Okay. Many of its members, it says, are at the forefront of abattoir design and facilities designed to house the animals to help them move around and around the site with ease and without any pain, distress, or suffering. Bull fucking shit. Meat processing in the UK employs 75,000 people, for whom approximately of whom approximately 69% are from European Union member states, the BMPA notes. That doesn't, I mean, as we'll see in a second, that might mean that they are from Eastern Europe. The barrier to British people taking up roles in meat processing is an unwillingness to work in what is perceived to be a challenging environment. It says most people, while they eat meat, find it difficult to work in its production, partly because of their obvious aversion to the slaughter process, but also because it's physically demanding role. was it my last short was exactly about that. Most people who eat meat would never kill or hurt an animal, have unimaginable empathy to animals who are hurt or whatever, and yet they eat meat, they pay for it. So yeah. At the height of BSE and bovine let's skip this is not interesting. The point is, though, that I remember one day in particular when it's been for about a year or so, when we had to slaughter 5 calves at the same time. We tried to keep them within the rails of the pens, but they were so small and bony that they could easily skip out of the trot around, slightly wobbly on their newly born legs. So those are seriously like really young calves who can barely stand. They sniffed us like puppies because they were young and curious. Some of the boys and I stroked them, and they suckled on our fingers. When the time came to kill them, it was tough, both emotionally and physically. Slaughterhouses are designed for slaughtering really large animals, so the stand boxes are normally just about the height of right size to hold a cow that weighs about a ton. When we put the first calf in, it only came to about a quarter of the way up the box, if that. We put all 5 calves in at once, then we killed them. By the way, it's a gruesome fucking situation, but the illustrations are absolutely, like, I don't know, aesthetically beautiful. Like the way they cleared this from being meat. It's truly beautiful. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm going on some tangents, but that's okay. Afterwards, looking at the dead animals on the ground, the slaughterers were visibly upset. I rarely saw them so vulnerable. Emotions in the abattoir tended to be bottled up. Nobody talks about their feelings. It's not supposed to be feelings, like emotions, I think, but that's okay. There was an overwhelming sense that you weren't allowed to show weakness. Plus, there were a lot of workers who wouldn't have been able to talk about their feelings to the rest of us, even if they'd want to. Many were migrant workers, predominantly from Eastern Europe, whose English wasn't good enough for them to seek help if they were struggling. A lot of the men I was working with were also moonlighting elsewhere. They'd finish their 10 or 11 hours at the abattoir before going to another job, and exhaustion often took its toll. Some developed alcohol problems, often coming into work smelling strongly of drink. Others became addicted to energy drinks, and more than one had a heart attack. This somehow links energy drinks to heart attacks, I'm guessing, like because of the high beat rate, I don't know. These drinks were then removed from the abattoir vending machines, but people would still bring them in from home and drink them secretly in their cars. I'm an animal lover. A slaughterman at Tyford Abattoir described his approach to his work for the food chain on the BBC World Service. Basically, I'm an animal lover. I don't take any pleasure in what we're doing. So I'll continue reading in a second, but this strikes home because I was for a while talking to a farmer, an animal farmer. Sorry, and he had like a small farm with small animals, and I kept pressing him on the situation, and he finally said, no, I don't like killing animals. I know the animals, I don't, I take care of them, blah, blah, blah. Of course, what he means by taking care of we would consider abuse, but you know, in his mind, he's taking care of those animals, so he doesn't want to kill them. And I've heard this sentiment before from other people who slaughter their own animals or whatever. So I definitely do, like, I think Connann is talking about very specific people that he said that had no trouble killing animals after once or twice. But even then, like, if they have a problem with killing animals those first few times, like, yeah, we can get used to, like, one of the things that humans have is resilience. We can get used to so many things, but that doesn't mean that it's like morally benign only or insignificant. I don't know. So basically, I'm an animal lover. I don't take any pleasure in what we're doing, but if I can do it as quietly, as professional as possible, then I think we've achieved something. Just be professional, do it, and switch off. And then when we've finished work, go home and be a normal person. I don't know how he would do that. It's not for everybody. Yeah, no shit. I know a couple of butchers that would not walk inside this abattoir. The thought of taking something's life, they find that difficult to accept or witness. Abattoir work has been linked to multiple mental health problems. This is the study I was talking about that was written a little bit too emotionally, even for my taste. I think it's a missed opportunity to write it in that manner. Because once subjectivity is so apparent, I think then the study findings are kind of moot, I think. One researcher uses the term Perpetrator-Induced Traumatic Syndrome, or PITS, to refer to symptoms of PTSD suffered by slaughterhouse workers. I personally suffered from depression, a condition exacerbated... oh, this is, by the way, I think this person talking again. A condition exacerbated by the long hours, the relentless work, and being surrounded by death. After a while, I started feeling suicidal. So when people are telling vegans that we don't care about people, they should look their own way. It's unwitting projection, I think. It's unclear whether slaughterhouse work causes these problems or whether the job attracts people with pre-existing conditions. But either way, it's an incredibly isolating job and it's hard to seek help. When I'd tell people that I did what I did for work, I'd either be met with absolute revulsion. Now, this is interesting, right? I also talked about this, I don't remember in which video, maybe not in the video, but in some other place. It's really strange that people who eat meat find the job of a slaughterhouse worker, like, revolting. I mean, you should revere them as heroes, right? Because they provide the food that you want to eat, so you eat it mindlessly. But why would you find revulsion in the work of slaughterhouse? This is the person that feeds you. I don't understand. Yeah, so ironic, Justin. I don't get it. Or a curious, jokey fascination we found psychopaths. Either way, I could never open up to people about the effects it was having on me. Instead, I sometimes joked along with them, telling gory tales about skinning a cow or handling its innards, but mostly I just kept quiet. I think I didn't add it to the list, but I think that's one of the reasons that slaughterhouse workers don't talk about their feelings and emotions, because whenever they talk about their work at all, it's met with this like extreme reaction to it. Like, I think every vegan knows that reaction very well, because we just stating that we are vegans also met with that reaction. So some people react by just shutting up about it, just not talking about it at all. Yeah, Michael, being a slaughterhouse worker is not a badge of honor for the public. Sorry, I lost your... Oh, you deleted it. I'm sorry. But yeah, you're right, I think. I think it's kind of weird. Like, if somebody produces the thing that is hard to produce, right? That you love so much. Supposedly you'd, like, I don't know. Yeah, they look at this job with disdain. How fucked up is that? There's gotta be some research about that, or maybe not, but like, that research would be fascinating. That would be really, really interesting, what the public thinks about slaughterhouse workers. If we can... it's a shame that Michelle Lowe is not around anymore. Maybe she could have created this research. It's really a shame. Trapped in the matrix. One thing I have learned over the years as a vegan is that the percentage of human population that are social psychopaths is staggering. I don't know. I'm at odds with that perception, because I think mostly people are good but mindless. I think that's the thing, because like the seemingly psychopathic things, they seem to repeat from one person to another. They seem to just adapt it into their into their psyche, or into their excuse management thing. But most people would definitely say they don't want to kill animals. When they see animals struggle, they don't like it. And by the way, like, one of my best friends, like, we aren't as close anymore. I wonder why, but when she sees an animal, she starts salivating. So there's definitely something there. But I don't think she's a psychopath, because she's incredibly attentive and intuitive and affectionate and empathetic to other things and people. So there is something going on there that allowed her to like make make the association on one hand and disassociation on the other. She also grew up like seeing animals being slaughtered and shit, so maybe that's that. So I don't know. Like, for instance, she was talking about her childhood and how her family would bring like sheep to slaughter on the spot, and she would pet the sheep, but she would have then zero problems when the sheep is slaughtered, eat the flesh, and everything was done in front of her. So I don't think that's a psychopathic response. There is a disassociation there, but it's very specific. I think psychopaths Oh my god, I'm doing armchair psychology, but everything is just my observation, so don't take it as anything actually. But my observation is that most people, even if they have this specific disassociation from animals, they don't act as psychopaths in other areas. They're incredibly affectionate, attentive to other things, so they have empathy and such. Yeah, having empathy for humans but not animals would be social psychopathy. I don't know about that. I don't know, trapped in a matrix, because like we talked before about the association between animal abuse in the childhood and then psychopathic behavior. The psychopathic behavior translates to humans. That's kind of the point. Psychopaths can't relate to anybody, right? I think I'm not again, I'm not saying anything like concrete that I have read about too intensively. I also don't have any credentials, so yeah, definitely disassociation, Justin. Okay, let's continue, because I don't want this live to be as long as the one before. But I do need to drink once in a while. I closed my window, so it's boiling hot, but I had to close it because there is like a small family party outside, and I didn't want it to bother the stream too much. But it's getting hot. It's definitely getting a little boily here. Yeah, Tristan Tate is closer to being psychopathic, maybe. I don't know. But I'm talking shit. I have no credentials to talk about people's psyches or whatever. My observation, though, is for whatever it's worth, probably very little, is that most people are not that. Most people are not that even to the animals. But they don't have to deal with animal slaughter on the daily, right? So they can eat the product without paying the piper, as we say, without doing the deed themselves. Okay. A few years into my time at the abattoir, a colleague started making flippant comments about not being here in 6 months. Everyone would laugh it off. He was a bit of a joker, so people assumed he was taking the mick, saying he'd have a new job or something. But it made me feel really uneasy. I took him into a side room and asked him what he meant, and he broke down. He admitted that he was plagued with suicidal thoughts, that he didn't feel like he could cope anymore, and that he needed help, but he begged me not to tell our bosses. So, I don't know, like, that is one of the questions that I presented. How the current slaughterhouse workers, how could they even express such a thing? Because if they would express that killing animals is hard for them, would they be able to keep the job? I don't think so. Like, if you are a driver for a living and all of a sudden develop a fear of driving, you couldn't keep your job. So yeah, the fear could be really real. If people like in a desperate situation where they like really need that job, I mean, I couldn't even imagine being in that situation, because my situation was not as hard. I always had a job. I always could leave the job and find another one, and to have like some kind of cushion to fall on if I didn't have a job for a little bit. But I can imagine the desperation. I saw the desperation in my parents. at various points of life. So yeah. Okay. I was able to help him get treatment from his GP, and in helping him, I realized I needed help myself too. I felt like the horrific things I was seeing had clouded my thinking, and I was in a full-blown state of depression. It felt like a big step, but I needed to get out of there. Yeah. After I left my job in the abattoir, things started looking brighter. I changed tack. What is tack? I don't know. I changed tack completely and began working with mental health charities, encouraging people to open up about their feelings and seek professional help, even if they don't think they need it or feel like they don't deserve it. A few months after leaving, I heard from one of my former colleagues. He told me that a man who'd worked with us, whose job was to flay the carcasses, had killed himself. So not only slaughterhouse workers, but the people who are dealing with the carcass post-slaughter. It's still so emotionally scarring, so I definitely don't know what Connann was talking about. Sometimes I recall my days in the slaughterhouse. I think about my former colleagues working relentlessly, as though they were treating water in a vast ocean with dry land completely out of sight. Like, for real, can you imagine? This is what you do day in, day out. You come in first thing and you have to really quickly kill a bunch of animals. About, in this case, in this slaughterhouse, about 250 animals a day. This, by the way, sounds like a small slaughterhouse. So this makes her comment about this place not being as horrific. Being horrific, but maybe not as other slaughterhouses, really interesting, because like the bigger slaughterhouses that treat the more animals would be more horrific, wouldn't they? I remember my colleagues who didn't survive. Jesus. And at night, when I close my eyes and try to sleep, I still sometimes see hundreds of pairs of eyeballs staring back at me. Right. I'm exhausted. I hate reading out loud. And this was probably terrible for you as well, but 5 of you hung around, so thank you very much. Yes, Justin, this is absolutely sickening. Like, I consider myself as pretty empathetic. I can like put myself in other people's shoes, and these shoes make me feel sick, make me feel terrible, and make me feel like I want to cry, for real. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. Anyways, let's move on to another anecdote of this channel, Animal Agriculture Exposed. I subscribed today and I liked. I don't know if they're still posting. This is from 2021. They just had like a small conversation with a slaughterhouse worker. I will again have to mute myself, so I'm sorry. I didn't feel like connecting. My tonight is like crazy today. I didn't feel like wearing headphones, so I will have to mute myself and we just listen to it.
Used to work in an abattoir,
Yeah,
is that correct?
Norfolk, yeah.
In which one was that?
Oh God.
Was it a while ago now?
Yeah. I worked there. There was no other jobs. I went for that job, but I didn't expect what I was going in for. So I went for the job. I thought I'd never get it, but I got the job. I went there. I thought I went to show me around the factory. And I said, yeah, the job's for me. Yeah, take the job now. So I took it, and these sort of things, it was like pigs and that, we had to stun them, and sheep, cattle and that, we had to stun them.
So how did you stun them? What was the stunning method?
We used electric shock on them.
Okay.
We used to put them in this cattle grid, the heads of the cattle grid, when they come through, one at a time. And we used to, some of them we used to shoot them by electric bolt.
Was that the like the prongs?
Yeah,
to the
prongs.
head?
Yeah, the prongs are for pigs, but the other one, the ones for the cows now, the proper prongs. It looks like a bullet when you got to shoot them through the temple.
Right.
But if you don't shoot them through the temple, they'll suffer.
Yeah.
And that's what we used to do. And after that, I used to go through, and I know it's cruel of me to tell you, but as you cut the pig's stomach out and knew it, they were still alive, you got to cut the throats first.
Yeah.
And you squeal like anything.
They squeal. They make a really loud.
They're really loud. It's like a baby crying.
Yeah.
That's the same as the cattle. They're just like a cat crying.
Yeah.
And they're in these sort of pens. There's about 100 to 200 in a pen. And what you got to do, you got to go down and drag them up by chain, because they won't come in because of the smell of blood. They don't like that sort of thing. But since I worked and all that about 10 years ago, now I don't touch no meat, no products, no nothing.
Put you off because you've seen firsthand how they suffer.
Yeah.
And when the animals are stunned, would you say does that process always work? Or?
No, I don't know.
No, because you're processing them very quickly.
Because when you stun a sheep, the body, the nerves are still alive. But you got to do it quick, because if you don't do it quick, the other sheep behind you, they all get scared and they won't try and the panic walk out. But I find it unfair why they have to go through that. Human beings won't go through that sort of thing.
Exactly.
I don't understand. I know everybody has to eat meat. Don't get me wrong, but I think there should be a proper ban on it, where these abattoirs should be all shut down.
Absolutely, no, I completely agree. So would you say the animals, when they are on the way to slaughter, do you think they know what's going to happen?
Yeah, they know. Yeah. Even the pigs.
How do they react?
It's when they come in lorries like pigs and that, they make hell of a noise. They know, and then when they come to us, when the lorries pull, they go down a big massive chute. And when they get down to the bottom of the chute, they're all different pens. And if the mother has had baby piglets, they take the baby piglets off the mothers. They take them about 6 months before, and then they come on the lorry and they take them down a big massive chute, and again all different pens, and then they've got to wait. They can be there for 2 or 3 days, so they smell the blood.
Yeah.
And they start going mad. But when you put them through to the other room, you've got to put the necks in this thing, like a stock. It looks like a stock we see it. But they put the heads through there, and then someone comes along. It's two prongs, only small ones. You put them to the side of the head. You've got to hit them quick. If you don't hit them quick, they go mad. Some of them cry like babies. Some of them will go through, and they're not dead.
Yeah.
And they're not dead. And when they get hanged up, when they come through, they've got a big massive tray down the bottom. They just cut the throat and all the blood drips through. But when they go through to the other room, some of them were still alive. You miss them, and they just cut the stomach open and take all their insides. It's a shame.
Terrible, yeah.
It's a shame what people are doing. But I think that this country, or the government, should stop all this happening.
Yeah, because we don't need to eat animals.
No, you don't need to eat animals.
No,
anybody can become a vegetarian or vegan.
Vegan, yeah, because every nutrient we need we can get from plants.
No, you can get it from plants, herbs. There's plenty of stuff that you can get it from.
Absolutely.
It's the same as chickens. It's the same as chickens. People just break their necks. No, that's not right.
No, it's not.
No.
They deserve to live, don't they?
Of course they do, like us.
us.
They should deserve to live, but they can't. Because people say, oh, people eat meat or that, but no, they don't have to eat meat. They don't want to.
Yeah,
no, they don't have to
exactly.
touch nothing.
Yeah.
But I think it's cruel. I think it's cruel what all these factories are doing. They should be closed down, or someone should go there and have a look to see what they're really doing.
Yeah.
But they won't
Thank
allow
you for
in.
that, because
That's
a lot of the public, these industries are very good at duping the public into thinking that it's all humane.
It's not.
And you've got first-hand experience of this, and you know that that's not the case
No.
at all. I can ask you, how would you say it affected you working in an abattoir?
It affected me hell of a lot. I'd go and see doctors and everything.
Yeah.
I thought I was going mad. I used to go to sleep and think myself and wake up and think, oh my God, there's blood everywhere. What am I going to do?
Yeah, this is really common. A lot of people don't realise the effect it has, not just on the animals,
No,
but
it's
on
on
people
yourself.
like yourself.
It's on yourself.
PTSD, So soldiers have the most common rates of
They do,
PTSD,
yeah.
but after that it's people who work in abattoirs
It
like
is.
yourself,
Yeah,
because you're spending the whole day around violence.
Yeah, all the
you're
time.
killing animals who are innocent and who don't want to die,
Yeah.
and you're witnessing the most brutal,
Ah.
atrocious things that could possibly happen. So
Yeah.
the animals aren't just the victims, it's the people who are working in the
That's
industry
it.
as well.
Yeah, they should stop it, but they won't stop it. I tried to get many years ago. I tried to get a factory shut down over this in Northampton. I tried to get a factory shut down about killing their products. And he said, "Go away." I said, "No, why should I go away? You shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I used to work in an abattoir. I know what you're talking about. How about you can come work for me?" I said, "No, my days are done for that. I'm not working in no abattoir again.
No.
So I don't eat meat at all.
That's
I don't touch
brilliant.
me. I don't even smell it."
Thank you so much
That's
for that.
okay.
I really appreciate
That's okay.
it.
It's nice to have feedback like me.
Right. So I conclude my evidence, my anecdotal, emotionally manipulative evidence to the fact that, slaughterhouse workers don't find it benign killing animals all day. We find psychological problems that they have during slaughterhouse working. We find them becoming increasingly more dangerous to the outside world, or coming in to work in slaughterhouses while being incredibly dangerous to humans as well. And PTSD. Yeah, slaughterhouse PTSD. You close your eyes, you see all the shit you've done throughout the day, and you're doing it for 10-11 hours a day. Like, yeah, I can't imagine. I feel so lucky that I never was that desperate, and that most people are never that desperate as to work in slaughterhouses. Okay. So guys, I'm done, basically. I just want to put this article as well. I'm gonna put it in the description as well. But I wanted to put it here because it's interesting. It talks about all kinds of things that slaughterhouse workers deal with. Like, I wouldn't even say... I would even say that just the fact that it's the most dangerous job and it's kind of doesn't produce anything incredibly necessary, it should bloody disappear. But of course, my allegiance, first and foremost, is with animals. If you want me to stick around to do something, let me know. Put one in the comments. Otherwise, I'm gonna sign off. Yeah, I think I'm done. It's not gonna be a long boy today. I'm gonna give it a few more minutes for you to marvel my beautiful cow, for instance. There we go. How does that look? Yeah. There is an irony about the author's name, because his name literally means farewell in German. That's funny. I mean, and ironic, yeah. Live well, that's even more ironic, Bianca. Right, no biters. So we're gonna close the live stream. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for all 5 or 6 of you who stuck around. I really appreciate it. I know I'm not incredibly entertaining when I just read stuff, or at all actually, but thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.